final exam review number 2. So I'm going to start with number 1 and just go through. All right, it says solve each equation. Remember to check for, you don't remember. All right, so here's the first one. It's 2 is equal to the square root of n minus 5 minus 6. Well, I know that you know to get rid of a square root, you square both sides. But you can't square both sides just yet. What's the first thing you got to do? That's right, add the 6.
Last announcement, I forgot to announce this. The following students have been selected by the Troy University Music Department to participate in Southeastern United States Honors Band and Clinics, which will be held February the 1st to the 3rd on the campus of Troy. Those students are Cindy Baker, Justin Bateman, Jacob Brown, Jerry Cook, James Haywood, Matthew Hurd, McKenna Stegall, Paige Stegall, Zachary Wilson, Olivia James, Alexis Robinson, Peyton Nix, Hannah Sprinkle, and Michaela Engel. Congratulations to all of these fine musicians. Thank you and have a great day.
All right, guys. So after you've added the 6 to both sides, then to get rid of the square, notice that the square root, I squared both sides. So that's where I got 64. So if you're a little bit confused about where I got the 64, that was where 8 squared is 64. Then to solve this for n, I'm going to add 5 to both sides, and that gives me 69. All right, for number 2, the first thing I've got to do is I've got to get rid of this 3. So I'm going to divide both sides by 3. That's going to give me the square root of 5n minus 1 is equal to 7. And then to solve this for n, to get rid of the square root, I'm going to square both sides, and that's going to give me 5n minus 1 is equal to 49. To continue solving this for n, I'm going to add 1. That gives me 5n is equal to 50. And then divide both sides by 5. That gives me my final answer of positive 10. All right, for number 3, notice that I've got a square root on both sides. So the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and square both sides to get rid of that square root. So I'm going to have 1 minus b is equal to negative 8 minus 2b. Now the problem is I've got a b on both sides. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add 2b to both sides and get 1 plus b is equal to negative 8. And then to solve this for b, I'm just going to subtract 1, and that's where I get negative 9 for my answer for number 3. So whenever you have a square root on both sides, what you need to do first is square them. So just like with number 4, a square root on both sides, so I'm going to square them, and that's going to give me 1 minus b equals negative 6 minus 2b. And again, I've got a b on both sides, so I'm going to add 2b to both sides, and that'll give me 1 plus b equals negative 6. And then I'm just going to subtract 1 from both sides, and that gives me my answer for this one of negative 7. All right, moving on. It says solve each equation by the quadratic formula. If you've forgotten, the quadratic formula was negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. Well, for number 5, notice that a is 32, b is negative 24, and c is negative 8. So if I plug that into my formula, I'm going to have 24 plus or minus the square root of negative 24, and make sure you put that in parentheses, negative 24 squared minus 4 times 32 times negative 8, all over 2 times 32. Now, if you remember when we did these, I told you that you cannot type that whole thing into your calculator. The only part you can type in is the discriminant, or the value up underneath that square root. So I'm going to use my calculator. I'm going to put negative 24 squared in parentheses minus 4 parentheses 32 parentheses negative 8, and that gives me 1,600. So I've got 1,600, and then 2 times 32 is 64. All right, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take that square root. So the square root of 1,600, again, I'm going to use my calculator. The square root of 1,600 is 40. So I'm going to have 24 plus or minus 40 over 64. All right, and so what I'm going to do now is I want to get my two answers. I'm going to split this apart. I'm going to have 24 plus 40 over 64, and I'm going to have 24 minus 40 over 64. Well, 24 plus 40 is 64. And 64 divided by 64 is just 1. What you got, Tyler? Right here, 1600, 1600. Yeah, sorry, the 6 got a little sloppy. All right, 24 minus 40 is negative 16 over 64. And if you plug that into the calculator and reduce it, it gives you negative 1/4. So my two answers are, you have to watch your signs though. Remember, do this on the post test. Watch your signs. Positive 1 and negative 1/4. So that's why the answer choice is C. So you have to watch out for your signs. All right, for number 6, it's another quadratic formula. In this case, guys, A is 18, B is negative 6, but the problem is there's no C. Well, what number represents C when there's nothing there? What number represents nothing? 0. So I'm going to put 0 for C. Okay, so if I plug that in this quadratic formula, I'm going to have 6 plus or minus the square root of, and please use parentheses, negative 6 squared minus 4 times 18 times 0 over 2 times 18. And so again, you can't type this whole thing into the calculator. The only thing you can type in is the discriminant, which is underneath the radical. So I'm going to have 6 plus or minus radical sign, and so I'm going to plug this in my calculator, negative 6, and make sure you put that in parentheses, negative 6 squared minus 4 times 18, parentheses, 0. My calculator is going to give me 36, and then at the bottom, 2 times 18 is 36. All right, so now I can take the square root. Well, the square root of 36 is 6, so that's going to give me 6 plus or minus 6 over 36. So let me get my two answers. I'm going to split this apart. 6 plus 6 over 36, that's going to be 12 over 36, and that reduces to 1/3. I ran out of room, but I'm going to put it right there, 1 over 3. If I do 6 minus 6, that's 0, and anything, 0 over anything is just 0. So my two answers should have been 1/3 and 0. So that answer choice would have been B. All right, moving on, let me go ahead and arrow down to number 9 and 10. All right, let me go down to 9 and 10. All right, if I look at 9 and 10, notice that this says factor each. So this problem is x squared minus 6x plus 5. Well, guys, this is a trinomial, and if you remember how to factor a trinomial, what you do is you take the last number, which is 5, list factors of 5. Well, there's only 2 factors of 5. That's 1 and 5. Well, how am I going to get a negative 6 out of those two numbers? Let's make them both negative. So I'm going to have x minus 1 and x minus 5, and so that's how I factor. So I'm looking for x minus 1, x minus 5, and be very careful with your signs. It's going to be C. So x minus 1, x minus 5. All right, we're going to do the same thing for number 10. It's x squared minus 10x plus 25. Again, it's a trinomial, so take the last number, 25, and list out the factors of 25. Well, the factors of 25 are 5 and 5, but I'm trying to get a negative 10. So that means both of these need to be negative. So negative 5 and negative 5. So this is going to factor into x minus 5 times x minus 5. Well, you're probably thinking, well, wait now, I don't see any of those as answer choices. Well, what they did was, it's C. The reason why is they just wrote this once, and they said, well, it shows up twice, so that's why it's squared. But it means the same thing. And notice there was no other answer choice that would have worked out to make that work. All right, for the next one, number 11. For number 11, it says find all the rational roots. Well, here's what I want you to do. If you would, just underline or circle that key word that says roots, because that's what we're looking for, is we're looking for the roots. All right, so I'm going to look for the roots. And so, guys, that's the same thing as your x-intercepts. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to graph this. So x cubed plus 64. We're going to want to graph this and see what my x-intercepts are. So I'm going to minimize this for 1 second. All right, and I'm going to get my graphing calculator. And this is x cubed plus 64. So I'm going to look for x cubed plus 64 once once my calculator loads up, and I'm going to go to the graphing page to do this. So my graphing calculator is up. I'm going to go to graph, so click on graph, and then I'm just going to make this bigger so you can see it. So I'm going to graph this, and I'm going to type in x rooftop 3 plus 64. And don't put the equals 0, right? That's not the part you put in, just the x cubed plus 64. And so when I hit enter, if you notice, does my graph cross the x-axis? Yeah. Where at? Let's see here. 1, 2, 3, at -4. And so that's my answer for number 11. My answer for number 11 is C, -4. And so I'll show it to you right here. So this is my answer. It's C, -4. All right, for number 12, it says x to the 4th plus 8x. So again, let's go back to our graphing calculator. X to the 4th plus 8x. So I'm going to just hit tab. I'm going to go up, and I'm going to delete that old function, and I'm going to put in this new one. So x to the 4th plus 8x. And now this time, look at my graph. It does cross the x-axis, but it crosses it twice. It crosses it right here at 0, and it crosses it again right here at -2. So that's why my answer for number 12 is C. So my answer for number 12 is C, 0, -2. So 0, -2. All right, 13, 14, and 15. These are going to require a little bit of room. So I'm going to rewrite these on a blank sheet of paper. So I'm going to go to number 13 right here. So for number 13, I've got 3 over n squared plus n minus 1 over 4n squared equals 1 over 4n squared. All right, now if you remember, whenever you have an equation like this with fractions, what you have to do is you have to multiply by the CD, the common denominator. Well, just by looking at the denominators, my common denominator would have to be n squared, and we got to include that 4 with it also. So I'm going to multiply everything by 4n squared, exactly. So multiply everything by 4n squared. So I'm going to have 3 times 4n squared over n squared plus n minus 1 times 4n squared over 4n squared equals 1 times 4n squared over 4n squared. And then I'm not going to multiply just yet because this is why this is so important. Now go back through and see what's going to cross out. Well, in the first fraction, the n squareds cross out. 3 times 4 is going to be 12. In the second fraction, all the 4n squareds are going to cross out and leave me n minus 1. And in the last fraction, the 4n squareds are going to cross out and leave me 1. So that leaves me this expression, and I'm going to go ahead and do 12 minus 1. That's 11. So I get 11 plus n is equal to 1. Now subtract 11, and that's where I get my answer of -10. And so that answer choice is C. So that's number 13. For number 14, I've got 5 over 2k plus k plus 5 over 2k equals 1 over k. Do it the same way. Yeah, that's right. My common denominator is going to be 2k. So I'm going to put my CD out here. There's my CD, 2k. I'm going to draw my little arrows, and so let's multiply. So I'm going to have 5 times 2k over 2k plus k plus 5 times 2k over 2k equals 1 times 2k over k. And again, don't multiply, just see what's going to cross out. Well, in the first fraction, thankfully, my 2k's are going to cross out and leave me 5. In the middle fraction, my 2k's are going to cross out and leave me k plus 5. In my last fraction, the k's are going to cross out, and 1 times 2 is 2. I notice I've got some like terms, so 5 plus 5, that's going to give me 10. And then to solve this for k, I'm going to subtract 10, and that gives my answer of -8. And that's why the answer choice is B for number 14. All right, for number 15, this is probably the harder one. It's 6 over n squared plus 8n plus 15 and then equals 1 over n squared plus 8n plus 15 minus 1 over n plus 3. Well, before I can do my CD, before I can do my common denominator, I notice I have a trinomial here, n squared plus 8n plus 15. So if you remember, how do we factor a trinomial? What are factors of 15 that would give me 8? Well, the only two that I can think of are 3 and 5. So I'm going to rewrite this. So no CD just yet. I'm going to rewrite it. So 6 over n plus 3, n plus 5 equals 1 over, it's the same thing, n plus 3, n plus 5 minus 1 over n plus 3. And the reason why that's important is because now I bet you can see what your CD is going to be. Well, the thing they have in common is n plus 3, but to make it a CD, to make it a common denominator, I got to multiply it both by n plus 3 and n plus 5 to make it a CD, to make it a common denominator. So I'm going to multiply each one of these by n plus 3, n plus 5. So here's what I'm going to have. I'm going to have 6 times n plus 3 times n plus 5 over n plus 3 times n plus 5 equals 1 times n plus 3 times n plus 5 over n plus 3 times n plus 5 minus 1 times n plus 3 times n plus 5 over n plus 3, which is a really big problem, but now we're going to start canceling stuff out. And thankfully, in that first fraction, well, the n plus 3s and the n plus 5s cross out. So the only thing that's left over now is a 6, which is great. That's what I wanted to happen. Equals, well, in the middle fraction, the n plus 3s cross out and the n plus 5s cross out. It only leaves 1, which is great. That's what I wanted to happen. Now, in the last fraction, the only n plus 3s cross out. So now I've got to multiply this negative 1 times n and 5. So I'm going to get negative 1n minus 5. And I see I've got some like terms, 1 minus 5, so that's going to give me negative 4 minus 1n. And then to solve this for n, I'm going to add 4, and that's going to give me 10 is equal to negative 1n. And notice that my answer choices, I don't have a 10 for an answer choice for number 15 because I've not finished yet. I've got to divide by negative 1, and that's where I get my answer of negative 10, and that's why it's answer choice B for number 15. So just remember, for 13, 14, and 15, you got to find your CD. You got to find your common denominator. Once you find your common denominator, you're good to go. All right, now for 16 through 25, it just says solve each equation. Notice there's some logs in there, so they're all mixed up. So I'm going to, again, since I need paper, I'm going to go ahead and write these on a blank sheet of paper. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up number 16. All right, for number 16, I've got 5 equals the cube root of x. Well, I know you know how to get rid of the square root. To get rid of a square root, you square both sides. Well, how do you get rid of a cube root? Well, you're going to cube both sides. And so when you cube a cube root, guess what happens to those two things right there? They just cancel out, so that gives me x. Now be very careful. 5 to the third power is not 15. Yeah, 5 to the third power is 125. And so that's why my answer choice for number 16 is B. So 16 is B. All right, for 17, I've got B to the 3 over 2 equals 729. Well, remember, when you have a fraction exponent, the quickest way to get rid of one of them is to simply multiply by the reciprocal. So the reciprocal of 3 over 2 is 2 over 3. And so now the reciprocals cross out, and that just leaves me 729 to the 2/3 power. And the calculator does a great job of doing that for you. It's just going to give you 81. And so the answer for that one is D. All right, for number 18, notice I've got 64 is equal to m plus 20 to the 3/2. Again, to get rid of that fraction, do the reciprocal. So the reciprocal, they like these 3 over 2s, is going to be 2 over 3. And so the reciprocals cross out, and that leaves me m plus 20. And then 64 to the 2/3, if I use my calculator, is going to give me 16. And then to solve this for m, I'm just going to subtract 20, and that's why I get negative 4 for my answer. So for number 18, the answer is C. For number 19, I've got negative 4 plus v to the 1 over 3 equals negative 2. Now, I know there's a fraction right there, which means I am going to do the reciprocal, but you've got to hold on. Before you can do that, you've got to add the 4 first. So if I add the 4, that gives me v to the 1/3 equals 2. Now you can do the reciprocal, and the reciprocal of 1 over 3 is 3 over 1. The reciprocals cross out, and so if you plug in 2 to the 3 over 1 into your calculator should hopefully give you 8. And so that's why for number 19, the answer choice is B. Alright, for number 20, we got some logs. I've got log base 18 of 3x minus 8 equals log base 18 of 2x. And I'm thankful that these are the easy logs. This is log equals log, and what happens when you have log equals log? They cross out. I love those. Those just cross out. So it's just 3x minus 8 equals 2x plus 10. But you're not done. You got an x on both sides. So I'm going to subtract 2x from both sides, and that's going to give me 1x minus 8 is equal to 10. And so then add 8 to both sides. That gives me 18. And that's why the answer to number 20 is C. Now, 21, you have logs also. It's log base 5 of 5x plus log base 5 of 7. Now, be careful. This isn't log equals log. This is more than one log. So you condense. Well, if you remember, when you have addition, the way you condense that is you're going to multiply those two together. So that's going to give me log base 5 of 35x equals 3. Now, here's where you got to notice. This is log equals a number. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to rewrite this. Well, remember, when you rewrite a log, you always start with the base. So I'm going to have 5 to the 3rd power. Jump the fence. 5 to the 3rd power. Jump the fence back. That's equal to 35x. So 5 to the 3rd equals 35x. Well, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and do this. 5 to the 3rd is 125. And so I get 125 equals 35x. And I'm not done. I've got to take that 125 and I got to divide by 35. So divide both sides by 35. And that gives my answer on my calculator of 25 over 7. And that's why the answer is C for number 21. So that's the answer to 21. Alright, for 22, I've got another log. So I've got log base 7 of 8 minus log base 7 of negative 2x equals 2. Well, this is also more than one log, which means I've got to condense it. Alright, but this is subtraction. And if you remember, subtraction equals a fraction. Subtraction equals a fraction. So I'm going to have 8 over negative 2x is equal to 2. This is log equals a number. So start with the base. So I'm going to have 7, jump the fence, power of 2, jump the fence back, 8 over negative 2x. 7 squared is 49 equals 8 over negative 2x. I'm going to take a tip from middle school. I'm going to put the 49 over 1, and now I'm going to cross multiply. So 49 times negative 2 is going to give me negative 98x equals 8 times 1 is 8. But I'm not done. I'm going to divide both sides by negative 98. So basically I'm going to have 8 divided by negative 98, and that gives me my answer of negative 4 over 49. And so that's why the answer for this one is D. It's very at the end, negative 4 over 49. All right, for 23, notice we've got 4 to the 3 minus 3n equals 64. Well, these were those problems when I had to give you that chart. And I'm still going to give you that chart on Wednesday, but I'm going to go ahead and let you know, for 4 and 64, I'm going to get a common base is going to be 4. So I'm going to leave the 4 alone, so 4 to the 3 minus 3n, but I can rewrite 64 as 4 to the 3rd. And that's by using my little chart, and I'm going to give you that chart on the test. All right, well, now that the bases are the same, the bases cross out, and so that leaves me 3 minus 3n is equal to 3. So I'm going to add 3 and get negative 3n is equal to 6, and then divide by negative 3. That gives my answer of negative 2. I'm sorry, yes, subtract 3. So I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides, give me 0, and then when I divide by negative 3, that gives me 0 for my answer, and so that's why the answer choice is D. So you get the same base, and then the bases cross out. So it's minus 3. So 3 minus 3, so that's, yeah, and then minus 3 over here, so that's my fault. It should have been 0. So 0. All right, 24 is similar. 24 this time is 5 to the a plus 1 equals 125. And again, guys, when you take the test, you'll have the chart, but I'll go ahead and let you know 5 is going to be my base. I can rewrite 125 as 5 to the third. So now the bases are the same. The 5's cross out. It leaves me a plus 1 is equal to 3. Subtract 1. That gives me 3 minus 1. That gives me 2. So that's why the answer choice is D for number 24. For 25, it's 4 to the negative x minus 3 equals 16. And again, they have to be the same base. You'll have your chart. I'll go ahead and let you know the base that's going to be is going to be 4. So I'm going to leave the 4 alone. So 4 to the negative x minus 3. And 16 is 4 to the second power, so 4 squared. Now that the bases are the same, they can cross out. And so I'm going to be left with negative x minus 3 equals 2. So negative x minus 3 equals 2. I'm going to add 3 to both sides. That gives me negative x is equal to 5. And then I have to be very careful. I'm not done. I'm going to divide by negative 1, and that's where I get negative 5. That's why the answer choice for 25 was B. All right, 26 and 27 and 28, they're probably going to be the most easiest for y'all, is that we have to just simply tell the domain and the range. Remember, the domain is the x, the range is the y. The domain is with the x, and the range is on the outside. So for number 26, notice it gives you y is equal to the square root of x minus 4. The negative 4 is my range. The domain is with the x. Well, there's no number with the x, so that's why for my domain, it's going to be x is greater than or equal to 0, and for my range, it's going to be y is greater than or equal to negative 4. So we're looking for domain and range, so that looks like it's going to be answer choice B for number 26. For 27, it gives you this function, y is equal to the square root of x plus 2. Remember, the range is the number on the outside, the domain's on the inside. Well, there is no number on the outside, so that's why the range is going to be y is greater than or equal to 0. Now, the domain, there is a number inside of there. It's positive 2, but if you remember, you always got to do the opposite. So it's going to be x is greater than or equal to negative 2. So we're looking for x is greater than or equal to negative 2, and y is greater than or equal to 0. That's why it's answer choice C. All right, for 28, I've got y is equal to the cube root of x plus 4. Again, the range is the number outside, the domain is the number inside. Well, there's no number on the outside, so that's why the range is going to be y is greater than or equal to 0. The domain, there is a number inside of there, it's 4. But remember, you always got to do the opposite. So that's why the range is x is greater than or equal to negative 4, and the domain is x is greater than or equal to negative 4. The range is y is greater than or equal to 0. That's why the answer for number 28 is D. All right, for 29, it's been a while since we've done the binomial theorem, but it's one of the things that we did. If you remember, that's when we had Pascal's triangle, and I used to write the triangle on the board, but most of y'all still remember it. But here is the problem for 29. 29 wants you to expand 2 minus n to the 4th power. Well, if you remember this, the first thing you do is look at your triangle. So 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 3, 3, 1, 1, 4, 6, 4, 1. And so if you remember, this power says 4, so do you remember how many spaces you're going to have if it's 4? You're always going to have one more. So it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put in those 5 numbers right there. So 1, 4, 6, 4, 1. And then if you remember with the binomial theorem, what you do is you take the first term and you're going to go down. You're going to take the second term and you're going to go up. So here's what I'm going to have. I'm going to have 2 to the 4th. Then I'm going to have 2 to the 3rd. See, I'm going down. Then 2 to the 2nd. Then 2 to the 1st. And then 2 to the 0. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the second term, which is negative n, and I'm going to go up. So negative n to the 0, negative n to the 1st, negative n to the 2nd, negative n to the 3rd, and negative n to the 4th. And this is where your calculator is going to come in handy. 2 to the 4th power, so I'm going to do 2 to the 4th. So 2 to the 4th times 1, that gives me 16. Now, here's a suggestion, guys. You could go ahead and narrow down your answer choices, because it's either going to be A or D now. Now, it depends on what the next number is going to be. Watch this. 2 to the 3rd. 2 to the 3rd is 8. 8 times 4 is 32. So I can already know that my answer is going to be A. So my answer is A. Because I end up, I'm going to get negative 32n plus 24n squared minus 8n to the 3rd plus 1. But again, I could have just stopped right after the first numbers because that's the only one that has 16 minus 32n, and that would have saved me some time. And that should have been n to the 4th at the very last. So that would be n to the 4th for that one. Alright, and so that's answer choice A. Alright, flipping over to number 30, it says to find the inverse for each one of these. So I'm going to go ahead and flip over to another page, number 30. So whenever you find the inverse, remember, switch the x and the y. So for number 30, I'm going to change this to f of x equals 9 minus 4x over 3. And so I'm going to change the f of x to y, and then I'm going to switch the x and the y around. So I'm going to have x equals 9 minus 4y over 3, and then just solve this for y. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 3 and get 3x equals 9 minus 4y. Then I'm going to subtract 9. That gives me 3x minus 9 equals negative 4y, and then I'm going to divide by negative 4. Now you're probably thinking, well, wait now, I don't see an answer choice that looks exactly like that. Well, I'll tell you what they did differently. They didn't like that negative in the bottom with that 4, so they just moved that negative up top, and it changed the signs in the numerator, so it became negative 3x plus 9 over 4. And that's why the answer choice is D for number 30. For 31, I've got f of x equals negative 3x minus 4. And so again, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change this into y equals negative 3x minus 4. And then I'm going to switch the x and the y around. So that's going to give me x equals negative 3y minus 4. And then solve for y. So I'm going to add 4. And that's going to give me x plus 4 equals negative 3y. And then divide by negative 3. And that gives me x plus 4 over negative 3. You're probably thinking, well, I still don't see that answer. They did the same thing. They moved the negative up to the top, and it changed my sign, so negative x minus 4 over 3, and that's why the answer is B for number 31. All right, 32 and 33. For 32 and 33, it just wants you to plug these into your calculator. So I'm going to find what log base 5 of 29. Remember how to do that. Hit Control Log, base of 5, 29. That gives me an answer of 2.0922. So that's why the answer is B. For number 33, Control Log, 2, 3. That gives me an answer of 1.585, and that's why the answer is C. So please don't miss those on the post test. Those are really good. All right, moving on with some more logs. For number 34, it wanted you to expand log base 2 of x squared over y to the 4th. Now, if you remember, exponents always go in front, and whenever you have a fraction, that is going to be subtraction. It rhymes, fraction, subtraction. So I'm going to get 2 log base 2 of x minus 4 log base 2 of y, and that's why the answer is B for number 34. For 35, I've got log of x to the third times y to the second. All right, remember, whenever you have multiplication, that's addition, and these exponents are going to move out in front. So I'm going to have 3 log of x plus 2 log of y, and that's why the answer for number 35 is A. Now, 36 and 37 wants you to go backwards. For 36, it wants you to condense. So notice that that's addition, and that's 8 and a 4 in front, so that's going to condense down into log of 5 to the 8th power divided by 6 to the 4th power, and so that's why the answer is going to be number, let's see, 5 to the 8th. They wrote it wrong on there. Oh, that's a plus sign, that's why. Plus sign, so it's going to be times. So it's 5 to the 8th times 6 to the 4th. So 5 to the 8th times 6 to the 4th. And so that's why the answer choice is C. So 36 is C. 37 is the fraction. There's 37. 37 is subtraction. So I'm going to have log base 3 of a to the third power divided by b to the 18th power. And that's why that answer choice is A for number 37. All right, 38 through 41. These are going to be really good, I hope, on the post test. All you got to do is just rewrite them. So for number 38, it just wants you to rewrite log base 11 of 1 over 121 equals 82. Remember, always start with the base. So in this case, it's going to be 11. Jump the fence, power negative 2. Jump the fence back, 1 over 121. And so that's why the answer choice is C for number 38. For 39, start with the base, so that'll be 15. Jump the fence, that's going to be a power 2. Jump the fence back, that's going to be 225. And that's why the answer choice is going to be C also for number 39. Now, 40 and 41 is the same thing, you're just going backwards. So 40, start with the base. So log base 20, jump the fence, 400, jump the fence back, equals 2. So the answer choice is going to be A for number 40. For 41, start with the base. So log base 8, jump the fence, 2, jump the fence back, 1 over 3. So that's why the answer choice is going to be D for number 41. All right, 42 and 43, it just wants you to simplify each expression. So that just means combine your like terms. So for 42, I've got v to the 4th minus 4v to the 3rd. And actually, I'm just going to go back to the actual page right here. So let me just arrow down. So for number 42, yep, it's right there. All right, and so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to combine my like terms. So I notice that I've got v to the 4th plus 3v to the 4th. So that's going to give me, let's see, 3v to the 4th plus v to the 4th. That's going to give me 4v to the 4th. The reason why I pause is because look at all my answer choices. The only one that has 4v to the 4th is D. So I don't even have to do none of the rest of the work because I know the answer choice is going to be D. All right, 43, what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to change my sign. So I'm going to have 6r minus r to the 3rd plus 8r to the 4th. But now I'm going to change my sign. So minus 8r minus 3r to the 3rd. And I think that was supposed to be a minus sign. So I'm going to change that to a plus sign. So it'll be plus 3r to the 4th. So now I'm going to combine my like terms. 8 plus 3, that's going to be 11r to the 4th. And then negative 3r to the 3rd minus 1r, that's negative 4r to the 3rd. And then negative 8 and positive 6, that's a negative 2r. So that's why the answer is C for number 43. All right, 44. Good old synthetic division for number 44. What you're going to do is, remember, you're going to do your little box and draw your line. Remember, opposite goes in the box. So that's a negative 6, so we're going to put a positive 6 in the box, And now let's just put down our numbers. So 2, negative 2, negative 56, negative 18, and negative 41. And remember, always bring down the first number, so 2. 6 times 2 is 12. Negative 2 plus 12 is 10. 10 times 6 is 60. Negative 56 plus 60 is 4. 4 times 6 is 24. Negative 18 plus 24 is 6. 6 times 6 is 36. And negative 41, so negative 41 plus 36 is a negative 5. And remember, the last number is always your remainder. Well, you can get your answer choice just by looking at the remainders. The only one that has a remainder of negative 5 is A. And so that's why 44 is A. Alright, 45 and 46, it wants you to describe the end behavior. Remember, end behavior means going down on the left and going up on the right, or, vice versa. And so for 45 and 46, what I would do is I'd plug that into the graphing calculator and just look at your graph. That's probably the best thing to do. And so, anyway, let me arrow down and show what that looks like. So here's what 45 and 46 looks like. And so if you remember your rules, what we got here is I've got an even degree with a negative lead coefficient. So that means they're both going to be going down. So if you wrote this out, it should be as x goes to negative infinity, f of x goes to blank. Remember, we're going to fill in the blanks. As x goes to positive infinity, f of x goes to blank. Remember, the blanks is what we fill in. So they're both going down, so they're both going to be negative infinity. So look for the one that has negative infinity for both of them. I know it's kind of hard to see it, but then that's going to be negative 4 for 45. That's going to be answer choice. It should be answer choice B. Oh, that's why. Notice it just rewrote it twice. It's x goes to negative infinity and x goes to negative. They just wrote it. They wrote it backwards. So it's answer choice B. They wrote it backwards on there. All right. For 46, it's an odd degree and a positive lead coefficient, so it better be going down the left and up on the right. So this is going to be as x goes to negative infinity, f of x goes to blank. As x goes to positive infinity, f of x goes to blank. Well, it's going down the left, so that's negative infinity. It's going up on the right, so that's positive infinity. And so I'm going to be looking for the answer choice that has negative infinity and then positive infinity. So looking for both of those, and that's going to be answer choice for 46. That'll be D. That's right. So that'll be D for 46. All right, 47 through 50. All I want you to do is multiply. So 47. If you distribute that, you're going to get 48n plus 18, and so that's why that's answer choice D. For 48, you're going to FOIL, so that's going to give you 15b squared, and guys, you can save time. The only answer choice that has 15b squared in it is C, so just go ahead and save time on that. All right, 49, another one. Look at this. Multiply 8 times 7. That's going to be 56 r to the 4th. Well, the only answer choice that has 56 r to the 4th is, B. So that's why it's answer choice B for 49. All right, 50. If you ever see something squared like that, guys, that just means you multiply it by itself twice. So I just wrote that out. And then let's FOIL this out. I'm going to get 25b squared minus 20b minus 20b plus 16. I see I have some like terms, so that's giving me negative 40b. So I'm looking for 25b squared minus 40b plus 16. That's going to give me answer choice A. And so that was the answer for number 50. So again, if you can save some time on the post-it, by all means do. You don't have to work it all the way out. Okay, all right. Now, for 51 through 54, these are easy ones too. It just wants you to rewrite them. So for 51 through 54, notice it just wants you to rewrite it. For number 51, remember, the root goes in the bottom. So the root in this case is 3. So this is going to be x to the 2 over 3. That's why it's answer choice B. For 52, you're probably thinking, wait, there's not a root. Well, if there's never a root there, what's the understood number? Yeah, you got it. It's a 2. So it'll be 2b to the 3 over 2. And so that'll be answer choice B as well. All right, for 53, My root in this case is 3, so I'm going to be looking for the cube root of 4k to the first power. Well, the only one that matches that description is D. For 54, the root is 5. So I'm going to be looking for the fifth root of 10m to the third power. The only one that matches that description is going to be answer choice A. And so that's why for 54, the answer choice is A. All right. The last part of this involves those rational expressions. This was test number 5 that a lot of people struggled with. All right, so for 55, I'm just going to put them on a new sheet of paper so I have enough room. For 55, I have 6x plus 4y over 18y squared minus x plus 2y over 18y squared. And thankfully, they have the same denominator. Because remember, you can't add or subtract unless they have the same denominator, which they do. So that's just going to be 6x plus 4y, and I'm going to subtract, so negative 1x minus 2y over 18y squared. Look for my like terms. 6x minus 1x is 5x. 4y minus 2y, that's going to be 5x, and that's going to be 2y over 18y squared. And thankfully, the answer choice is just going to be D. That's right. All right, 56, again, they have the same denominator, so I can subtract these. I'm going to have x minus 6 minus x minus 3 over the denominator, x squared minus 5x minus 6. The x is crossed out, so that leaves me negative 9 over x squared minus 5x minus 6. Yeah, so that's going to end up being C. C for number 56. All right, for 57, notice they don't have the same denominator. I've got 2 over 3 plus x plus 1 over 2x plus 4. So I've got to get my CD, got to get my common denominator. But before I do that, I notice that there's a GCF right here with the 2x plus 4. So I'm just going to take out that GCF of 2, and so that's going to leave me 2x plus 2. So I took out that GCF of 2, and that left me 2x plus 2. So now I'm looking for my CD, my common denominator. Well, they'll have to have a 3 in common. They're going to have a 2 in common, and an x plus. So I'm going to have everything. So 3, 2, x plus 2. 3, 2, x plus 2. That's going to be their new CD. Now, in the first fraction, notice all this stuff that it has in red that didn't have in blue. So I'm going to have 2 times x plus 2. In the second fraction, notice they had a 2 in common and an x plus 2, so they didn't have a 3 in common, so I'm going to have 3 times x plus 1. All right, now I'm going to clean this up. 2 times 2 is 4, and then I'm going to distribute, so I'm going to get 4x plus 8, and I'm going to distribute here, I'm going to get 3x plus 3. Now, you only cross out when it's an equation. You ain't going to cross out these. All right, and so that's going to give me this over 3 times 2 times x plus 2. And I'm going to look for some common like terms. 4x plus 3x is 7x. 8 plus 3 is 11. And so then 3 times 2 at the bottom, 6. So that gives me my answer of 7x plus 11 over 6 times x plus 2. And that's why the answer choice is B for number 57. 58 is a little bit easier to see. For 58, I've got 5 over x plus 2 minus 6x over x minus 4. There's no question what the common denominator is going to be. Your common denominator is going to be x plus 2 and x minus 4. It's going to be both of them. So x plus 2, x minus 4. In the first fraction, notice it's missing an x minus 4, so I'm going to do 5 times x minus 4. In the second fraction, it's missing an x plus 2, so I'm going to multiply by the x plus 2. So I'm going to distribute and get 5x minus 20, and I'm going to distribute and get negative 6x squared minus 12x. Now, I think there are some like terms that I can combine together, but I'm just going to take a look at the answer choices, and I noticed that the only one that has a negative 6x squared in the numerator is answer choice B. So I'm just going to go ahead and say that number 58 is D for that one. All right, 59. For 59, I've got p plus 2 over 6p squared plus 12p divided by p plus 5 over 9. Uh-oh, division. You know you got to stay, change, flip. So in the first fraction, I'm going to leave the p plus 2 alone in the numerator. But in the denominator, I'm going to put the words GCF, because they have a 6p in common. So I'm going to take out a 6p. That'll leave me p plus 2. I'm going to change this to multiplication and flip this, so 9 over p plus 5. Now, if I notice the p plus 2 is going to cross out, and 9 over 6 reduces. You can divide both of those numbers by 3, so I'm going to leave me 3 and 2. So my answer is going to be 3 in the numerator, and then 2p, p plus 5 in the denominator. The only answer choice that matches that one is going to be answer choice C. All right, I divided both of these by 3, so 9 divided by 3 is 3, and then 6, right there, 6 divided by 3 is 2. So I just divided them two numbers. That'd be no different than if I just did say, well, what's 9? 9 is 3 times 3, and then what's 6? 6 is 2 times 3, and then what happens with the 3's? They cross out, and so that just leaves me 3 over 2. All right, for number 60, I've got 3 over x plus 8 times 6x cubed plus 48x squared over 6x squared. There's no state change flipping for this one, it's just multiplication. So I'm going to have 3 over x plus 8 times, the numerator has a GCF. It has a GCF of 6x squared, which leaves me x plus 8 over 6x squared. I really like this one because the 6x squared is going to cross out, and the x plus 8s are going to cross out. The only thing that's going to be left over is the number 3, and that's why the answer for number 60 is just A. So that one is just A. All right, for 61, oh, these are good. For 61, state the excluded value. Remember, it only cares about what's in the denominator. So the excluded value is going to be -4. So that's why it's D, but it says simplify. I didn't see that part. It says simplify. So in the top there's a GCF. My GCF is 6n. That's going to leave me n plus 4 over n plus 4. The n plus 4 is crossed out, and it leaves me 6n, and that's why the answer is D for number 61. For 62, same thing. It's 40 over 24n minus 40. I'm going to break down 40 into 4 times 10, and then I can take out a GCF of 4 in the denominator, and that'll leave me 6n minus 10. The 4's cross out, so that leaves me 10 over 6n minus 10, but that's not an answer choice. I can break down 10 into 2 times 5. There's a GCF of 2 that I can take out of the denominator. That'll leave me n minus 5. The 2's cross out. That leaves me 5 over n minus 5, and so that's why 3n minus 5, and that's why the answer choice for number 62 is D, 5 over 3n minus 5. All right, for 63, I've got a squared minus 9a plus 14, which is a trinomial, over 10a cubed minus 70a squared, which is a GCF. Well, the trinomial, factors of 17, that's going to be 7 and 2. But to get a -9, I've got to make them both negative. So that's going to factor into a minus 7 and a minus 2. In the denominator, they have a GCF of 10a squared. That's going to leave me a minus 7. The a minus 7's cross out. That leaves me a minus 2 over 10a squared. And that's why the answer choice is A for number 63. All right, for 64 and 65, I hope that y'all just use your graphing calculator to graph these, because I'm about to do that. For 64 and 65, we're going to graph these, and we're just going to simply match the graph with the answer choice. So I'm going to minimize this. I'm going to go to my graphing calculator, and so then I'm going to hit Tab, and I'm going to delete this old one. So here's my first function. I'm going to hit Control Divide, 1 over 2 to the x. Let me do rooftop x. And when I graph that, I look at my pictures, it's either A or B. It looks like it's going to end up being, let's see where that's going to end up going. I say for 64, it's going to end up being A for 64. Alright, let's do 65. 65, hit tab, go up, put in this one. It's 2 to the x, and so there's the picture for that one. So it's either going to be A or D. The answer for number 65 is D. Now, if you want to do it with your T-table, you could do it with your T-table. Alright, that's it for today's lesson. And y'all were in the video, and Bree got to ask to go to the bathroom in the video also. Alright, that's it. Bye.